A lot of maize, very fine maize, which was sold a lot in Kerry. Apparently the people at that were eating, maize flour.
In McCown's, as in, really?
I think so.
Wouldn't have done the animal feed, is it?
Well, you could use it in animal feed as well, but there was, there was parts of it, I think, ground for human consumption as well.
Yeah, I wish now I actually got to be able to ask him about it,
Yeah, well, some of the older people that still exist now might be able to tell you, going back, like they used to eat meal maybe,
Yeah.
Meal. And if you remember that book at all, Scale Héna, it was an Irish book, Scale Shana, no?
I don't know.
I didn't read that. But he used to be a coggant na minna. A coggant na minna. Well, that was the maize, and he used to be chewing the maize,
Chewing it?
Whoever wrote that, I don't know, it was Peg Sayers or whoever.
Yeah.
But...
would have been more so Kerry-based and
yes,
Limerick
it seems to be,
meal.
sort of, I'd say all around the Shannon there now, Clare and Limerick and North Kerry there, that for some reason it might have been consumed there,
Yeah.
But,
and to be honest, I don't really know how my granda Frank got involved in the milling, but was it in your family before you decided?
Oh no, gosh, they were all butchers.
Really? And how did you end up getting the apprenticeship and stuff?
Well, we did an exam that time, and they were taking on people, apprentices. They had done it before I came. There had been several apprentices,
Yeah.
And you study flour milling technology and science about that particular industry. And of course there was nobody locally who could do it, so you were doing it through the city and guilds. And a lot of the lads prior to me now, they all went off to South Africa, around the world,
that
England.
far away?
There was great milling opportunities in South Africa at that time.
They do their exam and then travel?
Yeah, well, you served your time.
Yeah.
You did another year, as they call it, an improver year.
Yeah.
You could have spent time in the mill, maybe another year or two, and you would see these advertisements in a milling magazine.
Yeah.
The wages were great and all that.
And just take off.
It's much like now, and like now there might be bigger jobs in Australia or Canada or somewhere.
Yeah.
And they would take off to get the money and all that,
And you decided to stay in Limerick?
Oh, I did. It was a real home bird. I had trained been away for a while, And gosh, I didn't like it one bit, And Kenneth Breslin, I remember Kenneth Breslin, he came back from South Africa. Now he's still alive to this day. I just saw him when I coming in, walking out over the bridge. But he was a big man, in his heyday, over 6 feet tall, built in proportion. And he had gone out to South Africa,
Yeah.
And he had come back again after a few years, and he was down in the mill again. And he said, Paddy, homesickness is a real thing. It's not just in your head, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
You want to come home, So I always remember that for Kenneth. But,
and you from Limerick yourself?
I am, born and bred here, but all you have to do is go back a generation. And my people came in from Tipperary, and then set up the butchering business, and then down along we went our different ways, the different generations went the different ways.
And what age were you when you got your apprenticeship?
I'd say, just let me see now. It would be around 18, only finishing school, 17 or 18.
And did your wife work in the mills as well? Did she work in ranks?
Oh no, my wife was from Ballinasloe. Her father was a guard,
Yeah.
And they were shifted around. And she came there when she was 13. She came to Limerick because her father was coming to Henry Street. And we met up with it the way we used to meet up that time. It was mostly, what would you call it, the dancing.
Yeah.
Dancing in the Stella or Cruises or somewhere like that, That's how we met up.
And
Stella.
And was a social aspect of ranks? Well, when you worked there, did all the workers go out together socially all the time? They
didn't go out together, but sometimes, that my memory of it now is that, geez, we were after a week's work, and you were going out Saturday night.
Yeah.
This was the thing, you know. And you know, they were all heading for maybe my age group now, the older age group, we heading for maybe pubs, but we were heading for the dance, you know.
Yeah.
Where all the women were.
Of course.
And that was it, you know. But you'd meet up with all your fellas there then,
Yeah.
you know. They had the Crackers on and the Stella. It was on in Cruises, it was on St. John's, you know. It was a place called Todsy's. Todsy's, they used to call it. It was down there now, you know, St. Mary's Pipe Band.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah, I do.
But there's a Gael Skull now. But there's a fella
Todsy's.
there.
That's what it's called.
You know, and there's a fella there who used to play the melodeon. God, he could, as they say, make a talk. You see, he had all the modern songs. But that was it. But on the other aspect of it, geez, I've gone hoarse already. I don't know why it is. But there was a great choir there, and I enjoyed this immensely. You know, it was a male choir. In ranks at the time, and of course if they met up anywhere in a pub or anything, and as the night would go on, some fellow would start singing, you know, and then they had the harmony of it, you know.
Yeah.
God, it was great socially. You could pass hours away at it, like, you know.
Yeah.
It was great fun and great crack. That's what I remember, and the remnants of it was there then. They used to sing in the Franciscans, you know, say the third Sunday of every November for all the dead, you know, the deceased members. They kept that up for years, you know.
And was the Franciscan Church really closely linked with ranks?
It was. There was a lot of fellas there. Now, you see, they'd be coming in from over the bridge, and they'd be going into the Franciscans, you know.
Yeah.
And there was fellas involved in the Third Order there. The Third Order was very strong that time. It was like a confraternity.
And how do you mean the Third Order? Sorry.
So, you know, you have the, say, you would have the priests, and then you'd have the brothers, but then you had the lay people.
Oh, okay.
The, you know,
yeah. Very strongly involved, like.
Yeah, you know, but they would all be local.
Yeah.
You know, the priests and the brothers would be from different places.
And they would have been a lot of ranks workers that would be in.
Some of them would have anyway, like, you know, geez, they weren't all saints down there, you know.
Yeah.
There's a few goats as well as the most of them. Some sheep and goats, as they say. But, yeah, they were like that, you know. But that's more or less as I remember it, you know. But then you got the apprenticeship and you started off to studying. And you could spend time in each department, you know. You could spend your time in the mill, and then you could spend your time in warehousing. This is where all the finished products were and loaded onto the lorries. And you could spend your time in the animal compound area, and you could spend your time in the silos where, you know, you kept the wheat before it went into the mill.
Okay.
And we spent some time in the laboratory. Now, we used to do kind of tests to keep the flour right and all that. And you know, that's how you served your time. You went around to all the different departments.
And what were the conditions like in?
Well, looking back on it now, you know,
Yeah.
the place had to be kept spotless, all right, inside. The mill itself and used to be polished, and were meant to keep it clean. And if any flour came out, it has to be picked up, you know, and just had to be dredged away. That kind of put through the sieving process again, you know. But looking at it back now, you know, when a ray of sun would come in through the windows, you could see all the dust in the atmosphere, you know. But you moved around, you weren't confined there, you know, you could move around.
Would they have worn masks and stuff in some
I don't think it was heard of that time.
No, it just wasn't.
It wasn't heard of. They came later, development for masks.
Yeah.
I think one time, like, you know, if you had a break in one of the machines, that some of them just put a hanky over their thing, you know, we couldn't stop the machine, but you had to look at it and patch it. You could knock off the belt and stop it for a length of time and patch it, like, put the dust, and then start it up again.
Yeah.
But that was it. That was it. That was how you served your time, like, you know. Then when you were out of your time, you either got a job as a kind of a foreman or supervisor in some department or whatever. And you either did that or you emigrated, or you went to another mill. Somebody else says, maybe in Dublin might be looking for you, somebody in Enniscorthy, some of the mills around the place.
Would you just work your way up, starting going in as apprentice? Is that what you did?
That's it, yeah, that's it. But as an apprentice, you were kind of being specially trained to get the grip of the milling.
Like management, is it?
Yeah, you were kind of going in that direction anyway. But yeah, it was a fascinating study at the time, The little grain of wheat, that has 8 skins on it. 8 skins, and the inside at about 80% flour. The 20% were the outer layers. There was the germ layer on it, which is very good. Very good thing to eat. It's the kind of reproductive organ of it, shoots down into the thing and then creates the stalk. But you kind of had to separate that then. You had to know how to separate the flour from the skins, from the endosperm,
And you went in and you did your tests and everything.
Yeah.
Was there some people now that wouldn't have went into kind of the academic?
Oh no, they would have come in as labourers, you know what I mean. The people would have been. There would have been packers. You saw them there in the photograph doing packing
and sewing the top bags.
Top of it. And the bag then would have went down a kind of a spiral. And they had tables on every floor beneath that, and you could take them out on the floor, and they would put them on their shoulder and tear them 9 high, and you'd have a bay of flour manufactured on that specific day,
And was there any distinction between? Was there any difference socially, within labour?
That was the thing I thought. There was great mixers. Everybody was great mixers.
Yeah.
And, they're all different characters, and sometimes you fall around the place laughing at the idiosyncrasies of them.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was unbelievable. But they're really good. Really good people, And they get together for the sing-song. It was extraordinary,
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
And it was very close, so the working, it was very kind of family orientated, was it?
It was as well. I think, I used to hear it now, but it's only on hearsay that, the manager believed that time, Mercier, I think he believed that if you brought in your son, that now not only did he have Mercier as a boss, but he also had his father.
Yeah.
At that time,
I know.
What you're told.
Yeah.
But I don't know how true that system was, But then, as it went on, you kind of felt that they said the American companies don't believe in it now. They don't want people related in the one shop,
Yeah.
Because it can form sort of cliques and all that.
Favoritism and stuff.
Well, there's one family against another.
Yeah.
But the Americans don't believe. I know that now, from Dell and all those places. But it was more or less like that,
And it just seems it just seems it was very family orientated, and
I told you, if you had a relation in there, but then of course the manager was there all the time, Mercier, and he would have a good idea, well, there's the father now, and I wouldn't say he's 100% I wonder is the son worse than him or better than him, But
and would he
normally he would if the father was anyway decent and was a good worker and all that, he would say
you judge the son the same.
And at that time too, you had a thing called casual labour. You were paid by the day. You got your money at the end of the day, and the foreman would come down along the line, and you had to turn up, of course, at 8 o'clock to get jobbed if you wanted to be jobbed. And foreman would say, you and you, okay, that's all I need today.
Really? And would there be queues outside?
There would be fellas who would follow in it, because you got the money, and all you needed was 2 or 3 days, and you were
fine,
yes, you were great, you had money in your pocket.
And would it have been people that were struggling would have been there?
They would have dropped out of school early, but were physically very strong.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's why they left school early, like, you know, that time. All the schools that were around the place. And so it was great money if you got your toe on the door at all. You know.
Yeah. And what about women?
Well, there were several parts for women as well. The small packaging was for women, and also I think the sack department was for women. You know, the sewing of stuff and all that, you know. I wasn't there now during 39, 45, which was the war years. And I'd say they had to be very careful about materials that they had, you know.
Yeah.
Talk about recycling, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know, reusing and came there, and the sacks could be returned and cleaned, you know, and they could be reused, you know.
Yeah.
But that was kind of before my time. I wasn't in there till maybe 55. So you had come through the war years, 39, 45. There was a whole history of it there, you know.
Yeah. And
a whole history. That's where all the fire brigades and the different units, you know.
Yeah.
And of course you had 3 shifts. The mill went around the clock, 6 to 2, 2 to 10, and 10 to 6.
They never closed?
Then it didn't, but it would stop on the weekends, all right. It would stop on Saturday, you know, maybe 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
But once you started it, you had to keep it going. But, you know, there's all sorts of qualified statements now there, because you had a thing called the peak period. There was they didn't have enough electricity at the time, and you would stop between 4 and 6 because the great demand came on during the winter.
Okay.
And ESB, I think, compensated the company for that, for shutting down for 2 hours. And they would start up again then and keep going, you know. But during the winter, I think from when it got dark, November, December, January, I think you'd be shutting down every time between 4 and 6.
And what would the workers have done between 4 and 6?
At that time it was all internal cleaning, you know. This was a good opportunity now to take out and look at all the spouts and look at the things. And
they'd never be sitting idle like
they'd always be. God, no. Then of course you had to have practice, you had to have fire practice. Anything you wanted done then, now was the time to do it, you know.
And was there any big accidents, Paddy? Like when you were there?
There was, yeah. That was the biggest accident when I was there. Was a lad using a lift, and the lift got stuck or something between floors, you know.
Yeah.
It was a huge lift, not just like this room.
Yeah.
For carrying stuff up to the top.
Would have been like the animal grain, the big bags would have been.
Well, you know, at that time it was in the warehouse, and it would have been bags of flowers. There would have been 10 stone at least, anyway. And you know, it got stuck between floors, I think. And he was very impatient, or was impatient, and it could be sued for saying that, but he decided to dive out between the floor, go back the door, dive out, like, you know, go down the stairs. And just didn't the thing restart again. He got caught between them.
Oh no.
Yeah. That was the worst one I remember, like, you know. The whole thing started up again. And
would there have been small accidents within actually using the machinery?
Yeah, like, you know, you were always told to never put your hand where you can't see, like, you know.
Yeah.
Because internally there could be something flying around inside, like the roller floor there now, or there could be anything inside in a spout, like, but if you could see, well and good, you know.
Yeah.
But don't be sort of. The other thing was, you know, there were screws which carried the thing. These were revolving all the time.
Yeah.
You know.
On a belt.
And it might be, well, it could be driven by a belt, you see, at the end. But here you had this screw going along all the time, a metal screw. And it might stop, you see, and you might see, take off the cover and you see something there. And if you hadn't put off the belt, you know, make sure that was off. And you put it in your hand, the thing started again.
And you're
crazy.
And would that have happened a lot? Like, would it be like fingers?
Well, no, I heard of it now. I didn't see it, but I'd heard about it before I came. Like, you know, that's why they were dead down on it when they won't put your hand when I came in. Like, you know, that was a kind of a, oh God, it was a kind of a can't. You could only put your hand where you can't see, you know.
Yeah.
It was.
And did you work in every part of it, Paddy? Did you?
I did, yeah. That was like when you were being trained in. That was the thing, you know.
Have good knowledge of every
department, how they blended in. but you could be moved then from one department to the other, you know.
And did you end up specialising in one department?
Well, I've wound up in the silos, you know. That's where the intake of the wheat now, the intake of the wheat, particularly the Irish wheat. And the Irish wheat comes in fairly damp, you know.
Yeah.
It's fairly damp for storage. Now, if you want to hold it for 12 months, you have to dry it.
Yeah.
Sometimes now you get a bad harvest there, it would be 22%, you know. And the minimum sort of temperature or the minimum moisture content in it to hold it for 12 months would be 14%. So you had dryers as well down there.
Okay.
And you had to dry the Irish wheat down to 14%, you know. And then when you stored it, you had to turn it, as they call it. You had to run it out of one bin into another, just give it an airing.
Yeah.
Also kept it cool and kept it in condition for to go to the mill, you know. So that's where I eventually wound up. And the boats, of course, we used foreign wheat as well. We used foreign wheat, you use Manitoba wheat, Canadian, and you use French wheat. And I remember there was Australian came in as well. And that would be used in percentage with your Irish in order to make a decent thing.
Because the Irish would have been so damp, is it? And
well, it's a kind of a weak wheat, as wheats go now, just a weak wheat, you see. The Manitoba wheat is the strongest wheat. And it would have high protein. And this was very essential for the baker.
Yeah.
The baker would have to have it because it was mechanical handling. And like that would take, you know, rougher stuff, whereas the household flour was much softer. You could use Australian, you could use French, of course blended with Irish.
Yeah.
And I think it was about 80-20, 80% Irish, 20, you know, foreign. And the baker's wheat had to have the Manitoba wheat blended with it, blended with the Irish. But you get some good Irish harvests as well, you know.
Yeah.
They were ideal. But what do you want to know? What do you need to know?
I suppose when it started closing, Paddy, like, you know,
Yeah.
what we've done.
I'm making a quantum leap there. Yeah.
I was speaking to Jackie, and she was kind of saying when they kind of, you know, you probably came in boom time, did you? When it was,
We did, yeah. I mean, the mill was going 24/7.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's kind of type of thing, yeah. But not Sunday. I never remember it going on Sunday, and kind of stopping at 12 o'clock on a Saturday.
And like, so you were there when it started to feel like. What do you think yourself? Like, how would it have went from being so successful and starting to just slowly?
But there's a lot of factors now from my point of view, like, because there was a lot of things happening, and some of the things will repeat themselves in some of the industries today.
Yeah.
And one of the things was overcapacity. You had overcapacity in Ireland, like, you have only 4.5 million people here.
Yeah.
You know, and for the thing to be economic, it has to be running around the clock. Like, you have machinery there. Now, if I'm only using them 8 hours a day, like, you know, if I use them 24 hours a day to do the same thing, the cost per unit will be cheaper.
Yeah.
So the best thing, if you have machinery, like, keep it going as long as you can, you know. So the overcapacity situation started creeping in, I noticed, and instead of doing 24 hours a day, we were doing 16, 6 to 2 and 2 to 10. There was no night work, you know.
Okay.
And this was beginning to thing, and everybody was saying there's overcapacity and overcapacity. And I think there's a little booklet there produced by the Labour Relations crowd, or some crowd like that, committee set up to study it. And they were saying, well, there's only a few mills needed for the population that's here. And there's no point in having the rest. Like, there's all this thing now of, what do you call it? Downsizing, they call it now. But there's redundancy, really.
Yeah.
And closing manufacturing bases. But that sort of thing started. And then we're coming into the EC, I could see. And people were, again, just turning out to be all economics. And the auditor was turning out to be the key behind, like, you know. It didn't matter how busy you were, If you weren't making profit, hey, what's the point of you running around, you know?
Yeah, they want the profit.
And your heart up in your mouth trying to get things done.
Yeah.
Hey lads, at the end of the day we're not making any money. So they began to say then, the EC came in and all this thing came, like you were bringing in wheat here into Limerick. And it was costing you, like, you know, the foreign wheats now, which you had to blend with the Irish.
Yeah.
And it was costing you dearer per ton, say, to bring it into Limerick port.
Yeah.
Because you could only get so many tonnage up to Shannon. This would be my interpretation.
Yeah.
Say 3,000, you might get 6,000, you know. Before now, I remember they could get, during the war, of course, they were looking for wheat anyway. I think 12,000 tonne would come into the Shannon. And they had a thing called the lighter, which the Gary owned, was pulled behind it, going down to the place called Bay Castle in the Shannon. It wouldn't be far off a year place now, you know, on that side. And they would lighten the ship so that the ship would be able to come into the docks in Limerick, you know.
Yeah.
This was all intensive, labour intensive and costly. So, I mean, there's places then in England, I think, like, you know, Birkenhead and all those places, all those ports, Liverpool and all up on that side of England. And they could bring in, they could bring 47,000 tonnes, you know. And if I buy 47,000 tonnes from you, I get it cheaper per tonne again.
Yeah.
And this is where it's all. If you keep that there, you know, 12,000 or 3,000, 6,000. For the finish, I think we were taking coasters, you know what coasters, the big ships would come from Canada into one of the Dutch ports there. Oh, what do you call them there? Jeez, I can't think of it now. Antwerp or somewhere like that, you know, they have big ports.
Yeah.
And they would take it to huge ships, of course, came across from Canada. And they would take it out into coasters, as you'd call them. Those coasters, like, to us they were huge ships, but 3,000 tonne of wheat, maybe 6,000, and that could come in, like, you know.
Because the other ones wouldn't fit into
but they were just taking it out of the ships, and the small little ships were coming across to us.
Yeah.
So that was it. I thought then, when they started saying things like that, you can buy a tonne cheaper, and of course that cheapness follows its way all through the mill, all through the bakery, and out to the consumer. And that was it, you know.
It was just that you just didn't have the facilities, is it, to bring in, you know, you
could have now that they talk about it, but it was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So you can come into Finesport now, or that Alumnia port down there, you know, Hanish. That can keep in thousands because you have the deep sea water there.
Yeah.
You know. But here was the mill up here. You would have needed the silos there.
I know, yeah.
And then you would have to transport. Any time you kind of start transporting it from its original destination, you're causing extra cost, you know. But this was the auditor's point of view. Like, you know, they were really going into it in detail. And you know, you really want to, and I think there's one place in Dublin that held out as an example. The wheat comes into the silos, goes out of the silos, goes into the mill, it's made out of flour, goes into the bakery, and they had a bakery too, and there's your finished bread, you know.
Like they had it all together,
right? Yeah. Anytime now you start moving around materials in between.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's constantly dragging up the cost.
Then of course the cost per unit, if I can bring it into a deep sea port, you know. And this happened in England, like, and that was the classical thing for me, that they could drop the flour bill on Wexford £20 a tonne cheaper, and you could do and bring it up to your bakery, you know.
And was it kind of like, you know, the English were over ranks, and did they kind of just let the Irish take it over, and did they stop being very controlling over the Limerick?
I think, you see, with the EC as well, and all the barriers gone down, they could say, like, we'll export it over here, you know.
Yeah.
And do it cheaper, and there's no barriers there now.
Yeah.
You know, but there was one or two mills around now, like Odlum's, who still are in Ireland, you know.
Yeah.
And from my point of view, it would be very essential to hold that as an industry, because we're in Ireland. And if you ever get into a war situation again, you really need these industries to make yourself self-sufficient. You can't be dependent on anyone else, you know.
Yeah.
And to me, like, there's a few industries around like that shouldn't have been let go. The recent one was the sugar factory, you know.
I know, yeah.
You know, it's all right depending on others, but you should keep a certain amount, say that would do the population in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
And you'd have to keep that
situation,
like,
because
But that would be my view of it. Jeez, I'm talking too much. What do you mean?
And
what I thought was all, I thought was economics. Now there may have been other things in the background. They may have wanted to withdraw from Ireland, you know.
Would unions have had any?
Well, I thought I don't know, it's just for the record, like, you know. But I thought for a finish they were getting extremely strong. Yeah. Extremely strong. And I mean, from my point of view now, where you were, you know, a supervisor, you were in between the management and the union, and you were trying to get things done, you know. And you know, this law, you can't do that, and you must have a certain amount of men for that, and you can't do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I felt, Jesus, like,
your hands are tied.
Your hands are tied, and still you had to get the work done. And never again would I get into a position where they give you responsibility without power. You know, you need some power to be able to say, I want to do this. That's it. That's the end of it. So I think Michael O'Leary and I think the Americans have got it right. We look after you. Now, like the likes of the Americans and all, they give you great conditions, you know, great conditions to work in. You have canteens and you have this and you have that. And in fact, you can take shares in the company. And we pay you every so often. But this business where you have two powers, you know.
And they're contrasting.
And they're at loggerheads, you know.
And it kind of seemed that banks, I don't know, maybe it's just from listening, but I would have said banks, it was so family orientated, family friendly, that they actually did treat their workers. It wasn't as if they were very...
Yeah, or did they?
Would I be right in saying that they weren't very harsh conditions?
They weren't the harsh conditions, but they were the conditions for the time. Looking back on them, they were atrocious.
Yeah.
Know? But I mean, when you see what the American companies do for the people, you know, and the conditions must be right and everything. And you could see people there in the photographs, you know, and they're having a sack tied around them there. You see kind of a jute bag in order to spare their clothes because they're constantly pulling, like, you know, things against them.
Yeah.
Now again, as time went on, you were provided with overalls and everything, you know.
But it wasn't, I suppose, until, you know, as you said, time went on, there was developments that the unions started getting stronger, and then complications and, you know, downhill slope, like, whereas it seems in the boom time when conditions, I know when you look back at them, they probably didn't seem that excellent, but you know,
you were starting off, but they were great for the time, and the constant cash coming in, you know, was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Really a lifesaver.
Especially, as you said, for people that would be hoping, like, if they actually needed money, like, and to go that morning and hope to get picked.
It was real cash, like, you know. And you didn't have the social welfare systems there that you have now, like, there was no great safety net, you know.
And did they have anything in along the lines of a sort of pension, let's say? Yeah,
well, definitely when we went in there at that time, now say 95 or 55, 1955, you had a pension there for the staff anyway. You know, there was a bit of a distinction there between the staff and the workers.
As in staff, as in supervisors?
Yeah, going from then up, like, you know, and the office staff as well.
Okay.
And, you know, the laboratory staff, you know. So you joined us when you were 21. And I tell you, there was resentment that time, taking money out of your wages, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And, you know, it used to smile enough beside you saying, look, this will do you know when you're 65, and like when you're young.
You're 21, like.
Will I live that long, you know?
Yeah.
But it is a great idea, honest to God.
And were they one of the first ones to kind of do that, right?
I don't know, like, I had no other experience but people, but if you got in at 21, or something like, you get 2/3 of your salary then when you were pension, you know.
And was it because, let's say you said the staff, was it because the labourers never had contracts? Would they kind of have been a day-to-day, week-to-week?
I know, it was some of them permanent now. There was some of them casual, but there was some of them permanent. And I don't know, I think it was left up to the state, you know, you had a state pension. And you were trying to do that.
So they wouldn't have been able to apply?
I wouldn't know no more than that now, whether the unions had you know, given them a bit of a pension as well, if they had been contributing over the years, you know.
And so the mill closed in 1983?
Yeah, 1983. Yeah.
And did they do, like, would they have done redundancy before that, or was it just, okay, we're closing, that's it, everyone gone? Like,
there was, I think now, there was in the redundancy before that. I think it was happening in the compound mill, and they had got something, you know.
The compound mill now would have been
the animal feed.
The animal feed,
yeah, that's what they call it. But I think there's some there now. Geez, the memory is getting hazier and hazier. But they would have had it. We could see what they were doing all right. But then it came to the point where they were closing down completely, you know.
So they would have let a few people go, and then just to try to better the situation, and then realise that they can't. They had to close.
Yeah, they had to close, I think. Yeah, but it was all figures now. It was all, and I think that's one of the things too. You know, as I say, we have only 4.5 million people on the island. If your sales start going down, you know, or if there aren't enough sales there for everybody who's manufacturing, now who's going to stay in the ball game? Like, you know, that's the question.
And you would have probably thought that ranks would have stayed because they were so big compared to other companies.
Yeah, but sure, I mean that decision might have been made in the you know, in England. You know, like, we have enough here. If we need to export it, we'll export it. We'll be exporting then, like, you know, it's international stuff now. Yeah, it's better for us to be exporting it than to be.
Even you could see kind of near the end, as Jackie was showing me, you know, they kind of seemed to get way more into marketing. Were you involved in that side of it? You know, marketing mills, ranks internationally, and you know, even the cooking little the little recipe books and stuff. You know, that probably would have been at the very end.
Trying. You know, why should it be? It should be maybe ranks rather than oddlums. You know, that kind of thing. But it was only internal. You know, you weren't going anywhere outside of Ireland. It was just the population in Ireland. Then, of course, at that time too, there was a lot of home baking, I think. You know, the women used to home bake there.
Like buy in bulk and home bake rather than...
You know, they used to bake, out the country now, they would be doing it, you know, on farmhouses and all that. But I'd give up that to go down to that thing and bring home the bricks.
I suppose, and when it started to get more boom time as well, people kind of let themselves go away, like, you know.
What are you killing yourself making flour and bread every day?
And I suppose it's gone back to that now. It's gone back to people baking at home again, like. Yeah. Do you know? Baking in bulk, like. And I suppose when it's like, even looking at pictures, see, I'm not from Limerick myself, but I've been looking up in ranks a lot, but it was just such a domineering building in the Dock Road.
Some of them knocked down now, but I mean, you had all the silos backing up there in the Laurel Hill School. I remember it well, and geez, there was one silo there who had 6 pens, and every bin could hold 2,000 tons of wheat, you know. Yeah. Massive thing.
And then I was looking in a paper article, and they said they couldn't actually blow it up, that they had to end up knocking it.
They'd go to the top, like where's the weakest, and let it down.
It just showed it was such a powerhouse, you know.
Solid concrete,
And I suppose that would have been very hard for the workers, you know, people and their families in there from generation to generation, just seeing their whole family's work, and, you know, being so involved in the whole industry and learning from your father and your uncle and your brother, and just the building gone off the Dock Road.
There's a bit of a trauma, all right, you know, but, you know, because things are changing rapidly, and even they're changing more rapidly now. I mean, in my time, you went into a job like that, or you might have went into the banks, or you might have went into the civil service, and you thought it was like forever. You know? There was no thought of changing, but now, like, I mean, let the foreign companies even to come in. You'd be lucky if you get 10 years out of it, you know. You
Yeah.
have to adapt to something else
Yeah.
again, you know. I see it changing very rapidly and very quickly, and of course the people would want to be able to adapt and change quickly as well, you know.
And I suppose that time, would you have said, because someone thought they were going to be in it forever, that
Yeah.
when it closed down, they just, did it have a massive impact socially
It
on
would,
people?
but
Like,
it would, you see, but you could see it coming at the same time, like, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing. You say, if you're used to working, say, even in a place like this now, and it becomes a social, you meet the people, you're talking like what you were doing last night or whatever,
yeah,
and it becomes a social event as well, and you hear the problems and everything, and
the gossip around the place.
yeah, and what you can do, and it's contact, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's certainly like here you are at home, where they are, like, you're looking
Yeah.
for someone, you know, particularly for men, I think, particularly for men. Say a woman around the house now is used to being around the house.
Yeah.
And, all that they can keep themselves busy and occupied, can see what's to be done. But a fella then, like, suddenly has nowhere to go, you know.
After used to doing a hard day's of labour every day,
Yeah,
and then
working.
there you go, it's gone. Like,
Stop. Yeah, what am I going to do now?
yeah, I'd say it had a huge impact in the city,
Yeah.
because the amount of workers inside there, and would it have been male dominated really?
It would really,
Yeah.
a small amount of girls, and then it was mostly the office staff as well as small packaging and the sack department.
Yeah,
Outside of that, like, you had mostly men.
the labourers
Yeah,
would have been
it was
the
heavy
men.
machinery as well. Like,
Yeah.
geez, you didn't want anybody around there. Like,
And so it's 1983,
mm.
and were you one of the last ones to
yeah, we
leave?
were one of the last to go out, you know. But
And what did you do from there then, Paddy?
well, it took a while, you see, before the whole lot came out, you know.
Yeah,
And we decided we would take some of the machinery was there and start up our own little business, you know.
yeah,
And you know, the small packaging now, you could get a 2 kilo or you get a 1 kilo bit of
Yeah.
flour. So it would be all household flour. And that's it, that can all be automated. All you need is flour. So bring in the flour. We got a place above in Crossagella. I don't know if you know it, but it's a little industrial estate. And we put the machinery in there. We took it out ranks and put it up there.
and did you lease it or did you just pay it?
Yeah, it was at that time now, it was like here, it was like the likes of the IDA now and Shannon Development tell you to. It was a terrible time as well for employment. It's
Yeah.
get up, we'll help you over that style, you know.
Yeah,
And get up and get going, start entrepreneurship, you know, we'll help you. And fair enough, they did, were very helpful. And we got it started and we got it going and we went around the country, like, particularly in Munster. And we got into Bendon as well at the time. And of course he wanted all his places, his outlet services meant the whole of Ireland, you know. But it was tough going, but eventually anyway, it to make a long story short, it kind of failed, you know, because I find that we were in opposition to other people, and we were so economical. The thing was cheap, you know.
yeah,
Because we had a lot of friends with us working for half nothing really.
to get the business
To
going.
get going, up and going, and we got it going, and we got into several places, you know, like Musgraves now around Ireland, and eventually we found it was all about pricing again, and there was a certain price we couldn't go below. But I thought the bigger people now, and I'm only surmising, I thought they said they went lower than us. Now at that stage they must have been doing it at a loss,
Yeah,
but they were willing to do it at a loss for a while so that we began.
yeah, to beat
You know,
you like in the game.
Then yeah, they would come back again. They had a market again,
Mm.
which is a very small market, you know.
Yeah,
But one of the things there, we needed capital, and we didn't have enough, and we surrendered our pensions, a lot of us, just to put in the extra capital, you know.
to try to
So
get
we
it
had no
going.
pension
Yeah,
now as well, only the government one.
yeah,
So it was pretty tough at that time. But anyway, that collapsed. They gave it about 7 years.
but For you to get it going for 7 years when it was that's a good achievement.
It was great, like, and we were up again and you're mixing with fellas and, you know, your spirits were high.
Yeah.
I think care whether you made money or not, honest to God, but at the end of the day, that's important.
But it was feeling like you were up and
again,
doing your 9 to 5.
Your energy and all that. And one of the other things is terrible to get caught at a wrong age, you know. If you were, you know, 47 and maybe you had a few kids at home and, you know, you can get caught at the wrong age about redundancy. If you're old enough, you say, okay, I've got to take it easy. But if you have a family, you need stuff, like, you know. But you can get caught at the wrong age. But what was I going to say to you? Oh yeah, the accountant came in one day and he said, no, you're doing okay, like, lads, but the liabilities are exceeding the assets.
Yeah.
Now, you can do something here, he said. Have you confidence in this? We have. But, okay, so you have to put in more money. And we hadn't, I mean, we put in any old capital we had. Redundancy plus the
savings,
pension. And he says, like, well, you could kind of, you know, put your house as collateral that time. Put your house as collateral now, and you could keep going, he says.
Yeah.
And there was 4 of us, like, involved in this at the time, you know, just at the top. And 3 of us said, hold on a minute, I'm not putting the house.
Too far, like.
That's too far. So that was it then. That was the end of that, because, you know, there was one fella there, he was a real gambler. Keep going. But he was always pecking horses, this fella. So,
but you know, if your family at home and stuff, like,
you know, just in the family, I mean, I don't think that I have a wife at home, and I mean, that house is half ours, just completely mine, you know, I can't be throwing this into the pool, you know. So that finished it then. There was 3 of us said, look, we can't go any further, and one fellow said, go ahead, but you're go for it.
And just what you said, Paddy, there about Shannon Development, isn't it?
Yes,
they would have promoted entrepreneurs.
You, like, you know,
is that just because there was such a mass loss of employment?
That's right. Anybody who started up, I think that all these units, Cressagala's out there by Simon Road. I still think to this very day there are lots of little units out there working away.
At least I suppose government were doing something.
To
try
encourage
to
it.
And was there anything kind of in place for people? You know, some people would have been okay and they wouldn't have been in a terrible economic situation. That obviously it would have been a massive loss. But was there anything in place for people who would have, like, once ranks was gone, their family would have really, really, really struggled, like if they had a few kids at home? Was there anything, do you remember?
There would, I mean, if you had spent your life now, say, down in ranks packing flour, and you had no great skill after that, you know, this is it, I was packing flour. I'm only kind of a labourer, you know, and it was very hard now. But one of the things that absorbs that kind of semi-skill is the construction, you know.
So people kind of picked it up in some other way, like.
But this construction, of course, fell apart there as well. So healthy lessons there for all that, like, you know. It is.
I think that's about it. I have you talking, your 4 voice is gone.
Jeez, I didn't think I'd have to remember so much.
You've been great, Paddy. Now I've got a great insight into
Is it any good to you? That's the whole question. Is it any good to you?
Even the social aspects and everything, it's been great. Like, I've got a great insight into it, you know.
That's good. So
it seemed like great years inside there. Like, I know I was desperate when it fell.
Very happy, like, you know. They were happy, and the people, unbelievable people, you know.
But you've been absolutely brilliant.